Hey there, I missed you guys. In today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about why I was gone for a week. So, you see, I lost my pop, and he was very much like a father to me and a second father to my husband. And it's been a very difficult time, but I'm doing okay. And I even had the opportunity to do some healing. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time and tell you about someone who had a strong influence on me, and then discuss a little bit more about how I was able to heal a little bit afterwards. Welcome to Indian Motorcycle Radio. I am your host, Taresa Uncaged. Let's go for a ride. I flew home immediately when my gram called to say my pop had suddenly declined during his recovery from surgery. They didn't think he'd make it through the night, so when I got there, we immediately went to see him. He was, let's just say, sleeping. They were keeping him comfortable until it was time. 3 days later, he decided it was time to let go. As I sat thinking and putting thoughts down to get them straight and trying not to ramble, I cried. I cried because of what I had lost. I cried because the man who taught me strength and what a good man should be has left my life. Now, I always knew this day would come, but you just never really know how to prepare. So we go through his things and we laugh and we joke about the things he had or what he would be saying to us right now. And we remember. I remember. He was my pop, the greatest dad I had known. He was a man that made friends wherever he went and could always put a smile on someone's face with his wacky personality. But you know what the hardest part has been? Watching my family be sad. It's so strange. It's like I can handle my own sadness and it's really not a big deal, but watching the people I love be so sad, that was so gut-wrenching. Now, my gram decided to give my pop's old truck. It's a 1993 Chevy Mark III, and it was his antique truck that he babied and barely drove. Well, okay, so he didn't baby it because he kept his new Honda Ridgeline in the garage and left the truck outside. But it was barely driven, and he changed the oil frequently. So my gram gave it to my husband, who was extremely close to my pop. And while we were making final arrangements, my husband and my son went to work on this old truck, trying to get it running again. And my pop had been ill for 2 years at least, and hadn't really driven it in about that long, because he had just been too sick. And they started... They got it started, and they got a new battery, and they did some other things to it, and they took it for a drive around the block. They come back, and my husband is just doused in, conflicting emotions of gratitude and pride and excitement and sadness. My son was crying as well, because this was how they connected with this man that was gone from us here. And this is what made me cry all over again, seeing these people so sad breaks me in a way that I never knew before. So as all this is happening, my reaction is I want to ride. I need to ride. Now let me be clear. When I got the news, I had to ride home from work, and that was not a good situation. It was not safe to ride. The tears streaming down my face caused my eyes to somewhat blur. But now that I've had some time to process, I needed to ride. I need to get on my wild little Scout and take her on a ride and get lost. I need to get lost so I can find myself again in this new reality. I need to surround myself with my chapter buddies and ride off to an obscure little restaurant or bar somewhere that no one's heard of before. I need to laugh. I need to ride alone to focus on the road. And I'll probably need to cry some more after. But mostly, I just need to ride. I know this will help me get through this time. Riding will help me feel my way back to a new normal. Riding will clear my head and lift my spirits. Riding may even be where I talk to my pop, because this is when I connect to myself the most. So when Ken put out last week's episode about wind therapy, man, that really, really resonated with me. And I would love to hear if it resonated with anybody else, because in these trying times, it was a real reminder of one of the many reasons I ride. And I hope if anyone is going through a hard time, you know that I am here. I am here to listen. I am here to ride through it with you. And it won't be like this forever. And each day brings new opportunities to heal. One of the things that I got from my pop was this 10 by 10 portable tent. Now, I don't have a garage. We have like this portable carport up right now, but it doesn't really offer a whole lot of protection because it's just like a top cover. There's no sides. And this is awesome when I need to work on something, but like it's not great during the rainy season. If y'all live in Florida, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm thinking about using this portable shed for our motorcycles, our 3 motorcycles that are currently sitting outside. And hopefully the 4th will fit into this 10 by 10 shed as well. Who knows? The problem is that it's basically just tarps. So I'm still worried about the elements. So I did a poll not long ago about how often people ride. So maybe I'll do another one about how you guys store your bikes. I'm interested to see how everybody stores their bikes and what you do. Do you winterize it? Do you ride all the time? Do you have a garage? Do you have a carport? Do you have a shed? Like, what do you guys do to store your bikes? But I'm interested to see how many people actually use a garage versus maybe like a carport. But that's one of the gifts that I got that my gram gave me that my pop had that I plan on using, and I get to look out there and appreciate that every day. So now that I have this cool little 10 by 10 to put the bikes in, and I got some riding under my belt to help me decompress my brain, I did a little bit more. Well, first let me tell you, I was riding to work pretty much every day since I've been back. And the first day I got home, it was pouring down rain. So I took the red truck to work as like a therapeutic option. And then the rest of the week, I was able to get on the bike and ride because the rain really wasn't horrible. And then today, I got to go to my Indian motorcycle riders group meeting and hang out with some of my buddies. And we did our meeting and we rode to lunch and we laughed and we talked. And it was such a good time. We talked about upcoming rides, and there's a couple of local like overnighters that I'm super, super stoked about because some of them want to be like going up north too far for like 3 or 4 days. They don't really have a lot of time off. But some of these rides are like just a couple hours, 3, 4, 5 hours. Spend the night, see something really cool, come on back. So I'm super, super excited for those. And y'all remember that I'm into spooky season, and one of the guys is going to take me to a place called Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow. And I didn't even know there was a place called Sleepy Hollow where I'm at in Florida. So I'm super excited for that. So after I rode around with the guys for a while, I went back to the dealership to get an update because I told you in the previous episode, my husband ordered the Scout 20. So I went and I was asking for an update on, where the parts are, when the bike might be ready. Of course, there was no answer because it's a weekend and they don't have anything available. You guys are not going to hear this on a weekend. You guys are probably not going to hear this until Monday or Tuesday, but all this is going down on a weekend. So while I was there, I told you guys, every time I go there, I sit on like every single bike in the showroom. And they had a couple of new Chiefs in there. So I was like, oh gosh, Love that Chief. You guys have heard me mention this Chief before. And I talked about how my friend Emmy got a Chief. And I love my Scout, never getting rid of her. She's my go-to girl. But man, I was sitting on the Chief. And then I went over, of course, I got on the FTR because it's just a totally different look for an Indian. And it's sporty and gorgeous. And it scares me. The FTR scares me. So what did I do? I said, Melissa, test ride in the FTR. I gotta do it. She's like, yeah, girl, let's do it. So I fill out the paperwork, and she pulls out the Indian FTRS. Now, before I did like a whole Scout episode. This isn't going to be like a whole FTR episode or a whole Chief episode. I'm just going to tell you specifically about the differences that I experienced with these two bikes and why it felt so good to do it at this point. So I got on the FTR, and this is the lower option. So the seat height is only 30.7 inches, and it used to be 32 or something bigger, 30 something that was bigger than 30. And I can tiptoe this on one side, where before that was really, really challenging for me to even tiptoe on one side. So I got on, and I was really nervous, and I started, messing with the clutch and messing with the gauges to see, make sure it's all set up the way I want it to be set up. So I finally get out on the road, and my legs are in this weird position. So my feet are kind of more back like on a sport bike, but I'm sitting up super tall and high, but I'm putting a lot of pressure on my arms. It was just so weird and awkward, and I just felt really uncomfortable. So I kind of just had to keep scooting around to figure out the best way for me to be on this bike. And eventually I did figure it out. And I didn't go very far or very long because it's a weekend and traffic is crazy right now. But I did take it far enough where I, could get it up into fourth gear, which really isn't a whole lot, but I was able to kind of test that out. Braking was great. Engine braking was great. Shifting was great. The only thing that was really odd was just my seating position just felt really awkward. And it might just be something I need to get used to because the Scout is so low. And I thought it was kind of a sporty position, but in comparison to the FTR, it's really not. The one that I rode today was the smoke white version, which is the same color as my Scout. So kind of in love with that color because you can dress it up any way you want. Very, very fun to ride. I mean, I had it in standard mode because, again, this motorcycle scares me. I can't flat foot it. It's sporty and it's torquey. So I was nervous, and I left it in standard mode the whole time. I may go back and try again and switch it just to see maybe what the difference would feel like, but that's not happening anytime soon. But it was really fun. It was a really great experience, and it felt really good for me to break out of my shell and try something that I was a little bit afraid of, had a lot of respect for. So then I come back. And when I come back, I noticed these guys checking out my bike because there happened to be a lineup of motorcycles outside, and where I parked my motorcycle, I just wanted to make sure it was in the shade so my tushy wouldn't be on fire when I went to get back on it from the Florida sun. And they thought it was part of the lineup that they had put outside of used bikes. So I saw them checking out my bike, and of course I went over to chat about it. And the guy standing there was the same guy that was inside looking at the Chief. And I was like, hey, did you test ride the Chief while I was on the FTR? And he said, no, I'm just kind of window shopping. I'm looking. And I was like, oh, cool, because I'm about to go do that right now. I was hoping that you didn't take it or didn't put a deposit down because I want to go ride that one. And we chatted about my bike for a while, and he, of course, he said it was gorgeous because it is. And then I went and I got on the Indian Chief Dark Horse. Now, this one was in the stealth gray. If I was to get this bike, I'd probably get it in the jade smoke because I like you guys know I'm a sucker for that matte paint. I know it's really hard to take care of, but whatever. I love matte. So the last time, I don't think I told you guys, or maybe I did, I test rode a Super Chief. It was like a pearlescent white. Yeah, pearl white. Super Chief. It had floorboards and bags and a windscreen and the whole 9 yards. And I felt like I kept saying it was like my old lady bike, but really it's not. But I got on the Chief Dark Horse, and of course, none of that's on there. There's no floorboards. There's no windscreen. It's just a bike. There's no bags. It's just a bike. So I got on it, and I'm like, okay, do I remember what this one felt like? No, I really don't. It's been a couple months. So I was messing with the screen again and messing with the toggles, and I wanted to make sure I understood, where everything was before I got out on the road. So then I get out on the road and I realize that the throttle isn't as responsive as mine, but man, she's got some get up and go. She doesn't need much, but she does get up and go. And that was so much fun. I had fun. I think I got her into fourth gear also. Again, I stayed on the back roads. I took these smaller areas that could only maybe do 35, 40. At one point, I think I pushed it to like 50 on one of the side roads that I knew has very, very little traffic. This ride was super awesome. It was so hot. It was disgustingly hot today. But I was comfortable. I was in a new seating position on a new suspension, new handlebars, and man, it felt like home. And I knew it was going to feel like home. Why did I know? Because I've just been in love with this motorcycle forever. I mean, even when I rode the Super Chief, I loved it. I didn't love everything on it, but I loved the feel of it. So I went inside and I was like, all right, Melissa, I'm back. And actually, I'm sorry, she came outside. And so she's walking over, and the one bike is to my left and the other bike is to my right. And as she's walking towards me, she goes, how was it? Did you have a good time? And as she's saying this, she's motioning, pointing to the Scout, winking. And I was like, yes. Not the Scout. Why did I say the Scout? Wasn't the Scout. It was the Chief. So she's motioning and pointing to the Chief and winking. And I'm like, yes, that's the one. That's what I want. It's happening. So we go inside and I'm like, let's talk. I was like, what would it take? What would it take from me to get this bike? And so she goes, well, what do you have? And I said, I have a 2020 Scout. And she starts to ask me another question. I said, hold up. Listen, lady. If I'm getting a bike, I ain't trading in my girl. I'm keeping her forever. We're ride or die. We're going to keep it until she can't keep going no more. This would be an additional bike. And I would also need quick release bags if those are an option. So she works up some numbers, and realistically, I can't afford it now. I can't afford it now because of some other things that are going on the family side, but it's not completely off the table, which was mind-blowing to me because I thought for sure there'd be no way that we could finance my husband's bike and then I could turn around and finance another one and actually have like reasonable payments. So of course, that put me on cloud nine. So what do? I go for another ride. I'm like, all right, let me think about this. Can't do it right now. I'll stay in touch. And so I ride. I rode all the way back to my house and I was super excited, and I told my family all about both motorcycles and why they were fun and why they were not. And I just, I word vomited my whole day to them. And it was so amazing because I was very happy. And it was this day, this moment, all of these things coming together, me being brave and trying to test ride this FTR that I was very, very nervous about, but loved the style of, and getting out of my comfort zone, but also being very comfortable being out of my comfort zone in this particular situation. It was crazy. So now, the next big step for me would be to test ride one of the baggers. Yeah. Like, those are the next ones. Like, I sit on them and I can bump them up and they feel so good, but they make me nervous. So that'll be my next big test ride to tell you about. But yes, that was my healing moment, and it was pretty awesome that I can use this platform of Indian motorcycle that I absolutely love and respect, and I can use it to help me heal and help me process all of these things and use wind therapy to my advantage. Thank you so much, Ken, for that previous episode, because it put a lot of perspective into what I was dealing with as well, and what everybody has been through at some point in their lives. So I just want to say to everybody out there, if you're going through something, feel free to share. Feel free to share with me. I'm not going to judge you, and I'm not going to give you advice if you don't want it. I would love to listen and just hear the story of something similar that you went through, knowing that I'm not alone and I'm not the only one. I know that definitely makes me feel better, and it can make you feel better just to talk about it. So head on over to Facebook and send me a message, Taresa Uncaged, or on Instagram. Feel free to direct message me on Instagram at Taresa Uncaged. Or if you're a part of our Indian Motorcycle Radio Facebook group, jump over there and share your story. I will be going over there and sharing my story as well. Reach out, let us know, what did you go through, and how did you use wind therapy to help you get through it? I want to say thank you to my pop for helping to mold me in the person I am today. And I want to say thank you to Ken for his wind therapy episode, which helped me to see that this is definitely a great way for me to use my motorcycle to my advantage. And I want to say thank you to you for subscribing and downloading and listening. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you on the next ride.